The Children Young People Bill is probably one of the major the most important, I guess, piece of legislation in children's services since the 1995 Children's Act. Lots of important pieces of legislation in the interim, but this is the first one that starts to go into some of the fundamental things we're talking about, what services, public services, should be doing for children and young people. Overall, what ministers are looking for is a bill that will significantly improve the outcomes for children and young people, and as they like to think of it, help to make Scotland the best place in the world for children to grow up. And I guess it's trying to do that in two ways. The bill has many different elements to it. It covers quite a wide variety of different areas and issues. And I guess one way to think of it is the things that we want to happen that will improve the lives of all children and young people, and the things that we want to happen maybe for some specific groups in children and young people. The things we want for all children and young people is we really want services to work together and to be able to provide a much better service for children and young people. At the end of the day, that's what it's about. A lot of children and young people, particularly those who've got maybe more complex needs, whose lives are not very straightforward and simple, have quite a myriad of different interactions with services, social work services in some cases, certainly with education and health. And it can be a very confusing landscape for them to work in, and particularly where it may be essential for that child and that young person if they all work together, either to help them out because they're in difficult circumstances or just to support their family in whatever reason they are. So one of the things, and probably the key thing the legislation is trying to do, is to put the getting it right for every child, the GIRFEC approach, on the statute book. So we're calling for a single plan that brings together all the things that children and young people need. One of the drivers, I think, for looking at for legislating on children and young people is, and indeed one of the tests I think all of us working on it would really want to see, is that the lives of those children who are most vulnerable, who have the most needs, really should be improving as a result of everything that's taking place. And there are different categories of vulnerable children, but certainly those children and young people who've maybe got particular health needs, who may experience disabilities or what have you, or maybe a combination of different factors. What we're looking for is something that will compel and encourage the public sector landscape to be able to serve them better. That'll happen. We'd like to see that happen in a number of ways. One is really for the first time through the idea of the GIRFEC named person. The intention is to create almost a universal service that will support children from as soon as they're born all the way through to the point they leave school. And that's the idea of the named person. The named person won't be the same individual all the way through. It won't even be necessarily the same service all the way through. But the intention is to have a continuity of commitment, of role, of someone who sees their job as basically seeing the history of that child and the needs and the way they've interacted with public services, ensuring that all the needs of that child are being recognized and being served by services, and being able to pass on, if necessary, that child to the next stage if necessary. But ensuring that that child gets the most and the best coordinated support possible. And here's, I think, where there's an absolutely fundamental concept about this bill that will impact upon all children and young people, but I would hope make a particular impact upon those children who've got particular needs, not least the disabled. For the first time, we're putting in the bill our understanding, our expectation about what public services should be doing for children. And it's around a concept we call well-being. Well-being is a word that gets used in many different contexts, but within the GIRFEC world, well-being has a very precise definition. It defines it in terms of a range of different things you'd expect for a child, that a child should be safe, a child should be healthy, a child should achieve, a number of different factors. And the key thing about what the bill is doing is it's saying public services need to look at all these different aspects of well-being. They can't just look at one part of the lives of the child or not look at the others. They have to take full responsibility for all parts of the child's life. And I can't think of a group of kids for whom that might be more important than maybe kids who experience disability. It's not just about health needs. It's not just about the additional support needs they get at school. It's about a range of things that maybe public services have never really thought of before, how their relationship with society, how they feel included, respected, how they feel they can give contributions back. It's about what's required to take them from being maybe slightly more dependent, maybe almost like a victim state that's often conceived of the way public services deal with them, to empowering them to actually be the power to make full contributions to society. It's going from something where something needs to be done to them to something about, okay, let's not worry, let's not think of your lives in terms of what you don't have. Let's think of your lives in terms of what you can contribute. And that's a very ambitious thing for a bill to do, and maybe this bill will not be enough to do it. But by creating that language, by creating that commitment for the public sector, I would hope it would create a different way that public services would view disabled children, all children and young people. One of the things I think it's very important for the Scottish Government is that we really want to put the approach to how the public sector, how all of us look at children and young people on a much more rights-based approach. I think legislation in Scotland hasn't really given much recognition to children's rights. And given the importance that the United Nations Convention on the Rights of the Child is beginning to assume worldwide, but certainly within Scotland, it's probably right. This is the time now to put that sort of recognition of rights, that sort of duty on all the public sector to take action, to advance those kind of rights for all children and young people on a statutory basis. One of the other things the bill is trying to do is there may be some groups of children where we recognize that legislation can make a significant difference to improving. One of them is kids in the earliest years. It's one of the mantras of the Scottish Government policy on children and young people that the biggest impact you can have on a child's life is in those first couple of years. And that's really where you want to pay a lot of attention to the kind of services you give them. So it's for that reason that the legislation will be extending the number of hours of free childcare for 3- and 4-year-olds and for those 2-year-olds who are looked after from currently it's 475 to 600 hours. But the children and young people complements that agenda as well. Through creating this institution, this function of the named person, through creating the idea of the child's plan, we're in a sense requiring services to recognize the fact that every child and young person is going to have different needs, and those needs in the round, not the specific things that might come up in a particular public service context, whether it's how well the child's doing at school or their health needs, but all their needs and all the things they require from services need to be brought together through one individual who has an oversight of all those things and for whom children, young people, and families can go to for help about where they can get that kind of support. But also for those children who've got particular needs in one place through the child's plan. And the intention of that is to create something that helps to personalize, that helps to customize, that helps to create a unique entryway for children, young people into services, a recognition that they can't be forced into a kind of cookie-cutter mold in the way that services are operate, but that services need, as far as possible, to be shaped around their particular needs. The Children and Young People Bill does represent something of a crossroads for the way that children's services have developed in Scotland. It's taking the best of what we've tried to do outside legislation for the last 10 years, the things we've learned from looking at the United Nations Convention on the Rights of the Child, things we've looked at through GIRFEC, other aspects of the bill, and putting that on a legislative basis. But by doing so, I think we're creating fantastic opportunities to create a new way for services to work with children and young people. It's a very difficult time for this to be taking place. Services will be facing a lot of challenges, and that will be no doubt reflected on the experience of people who have to use those services. But it's often been said to me that sometimes those difficult times are the point where people maybe are most willing to take chances, to think about things in a new way. And if you think about the principles that are underlying the bill, that it's not just about the way that services help individual children at the moments of crisis, but it's how you help children and young people throughout their whole lives, and all children and young people, whatever they need, whatever they require, and thinking about what they need in a much more holistic and a much more ambitious way. It's not just about the things they lack, but the things that can be. If that principle is taken, and these things that we're hoping to put in the bill really take off, it could really change the way that services work. That may or may not happen. As with all legislation, it's all, I guess the proof of the pudding is in the eating. But at least the ambition's there, and that ambition responds to that sense of ambition which is already out there in the public and the practitioner community, and will no doubt help to inspire further ambition. So I feel at least confident that that ambition will lead somewhere. Not quite sure where, but somewhere different from where we have been.